Tiny from the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. I'm here at the VIP media tent at Kentucky Bourbon Festival with Tom Jones from Scotland. Go into a little bit of detail exactly where you're from.
Sure. So I live right in central Scotland, actually, just in the shadow of the Owll Hills. They're famous because they're the water source for Highland spring water, if you know that brand, known all over the world. It is the heart of distillery country in Scotland. There is, within 10 minutes of my house, there are about 5 million barrels of Scotch whisky maturing. I spent about 20 years on working in the Scotch whisky industry, but now I work for the Owll, and now I sell bourbon.
This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lick. Be on the lookout for a brand new bottled and bond Solomon Scott rye whiskey. Made from a mash composed of 65% rye, 35% corn, and 5% victory malt. This 5-year-old 100 proof rye whiskey is a throwback to early 1800s style rye whiskeys of the Ohio Valley. Named after the legendary Daisy Spring Mill distillery owner turned moonshiner Solomon Scott of Paoli, Indiana. Remember, drink responsibly and never drink and drive.
Sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew, and we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raising some hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, we're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
That's excellent. Well, how did that happen?
Well, I had a long, good, great fun career. I love working for Scotch and living in Scotland. But I had worked with bourbon before a long time ago. An opportunity arose. I really liked what I'd heard about Kentucky Owl, everything I'd tried, I really, really liked. So the opportunity came along, and I like travel, and it's a chance to come back to America, come to the Bourbon Festival again. I hadn't been, the last time I went to the Bourbon Festival was, time ago. So it was interesting, it was exciting, and I'm getting to take this bourbon all around the world.
Okay, so that in itself is super interesting. So you're talking about the Kentucky Owl. As far as the name, the Maighstir, is that how?
So in Scotland, you know how we all speak Gaelic and we just put hundreds of letters into words. So the way we would pronounce it is, it's the Maighstir edition. Maighstir is like master, and that's exactly what it means. And it's the coming together of two masters from the Scotch whisky industry, Maureen Robinson, and from the bourbon industry, John Rhea, them coming together and creating this, our Scottish or Maighstir edition. It's kind of like it's a Kentucky bourbon, but viewed through the eyes of a Scottish woman.
Wonderful. So, working for them and distributing and talking about it all around the world, how is it perceived? Okay, like if you work for and you were going around doing the regular Kentucky Owl bourbon with the Kentucky, the big Kentucky flavors, caramels, vanillas, and whatever, but you're talking about collaboration here. And when you taste it, there's a complexity about it. So as far as telling people about it, how is it received? One, because I would imagine it's when it's just you're going around in Scotland or the rest of the world when you're selling bourbon, they kind of know what bourbon is and what they expect to some extent. They might not accept it because we're all about where we live and supporting locally, but at the same time, I think just like here in America, Scotch is everybody knows, especially if you like whiskey. But how is this a collaboration where you're mixing the two? How does that get received?
So I find it really, really useful. So the first thing is that, you know, in different countries, people know varying amounts of what they know about whiskey or bourbon and so on. So if I go into a country and I've got a story that sounds similar to the last guy's story about bourbon or the next person's, it doesn't create many waves. However, when you come into a country and you talk about maybe, you know, a Scottish master blender, or like last year, a Japanese master whiskey maker and blender, or the previous year where we got an Irish whiskey maker, Louise McGuan, people stop because it's like, I didn't expect to hear that. You get their attention, it disrupts the flow, or it sounds a little bit like, no, that's not allowed to happen. And then you have their attention. Then you get to talk to them about Kentucky Owl, and yes, you get to say about the flavors we'll expect, and the flavors they'll expect, but also how we're stretching those flavors a little bit by showing you how people from different countries view Kentucky straight bourbon, and then, you know, how you can, by looking through and finding little gems in the various rick houses, find all sorts of different flavors and highlight them. And that, for me, has helped create a lot of interest in markets where I'm probably just one small voice. You know, I did a whiskey show in New Zealand earlier in the year. It was a big presence. It was a Scotch, an international whiskey fair. I had one tiny stand where I made a lot of noise. And then I did one again about 2 weeks ago in Sydney, in Australia. And we sold our Confiscated, was the best-selling whiskey in the whiskey show over 2 days.
I mean,
so
it is delicious.
So it's good. So I think, in essence, for me, you know, these collaborations help tell a new story. It gets people's attention, and it keeps them interested in the great tasting liquid that is Kentucky straight bourbon.
Well, when you think about it, though, people in the rest of the world are used to Scotch, and there's a fruitiness to this that you were, like you said, you're picking barrels that are maturing, and then blending that between the two master distillers, and coming up with this, and it is a bourbon. It's still a bourbon. It's not like another collaboration where it's a whiskey, because there's different types of whiskeys in it, which I don't have any problem. But you would think this in America would appeal to a lot of the Scotch drinkers for bourbon and that fruitiness, but then get the regular bourbon drinkers liking the fruitiness, you know, because that's, you know, a lot of times pot still will pick up some of the fruity notes and that type of thing. And the grain, but this definitely. Now, is there a strong presence of malt in here, more so than?
As far as I'm aware, pick up some of the malt. I mean, we're not meant to divulge all the different.
Right. I don't need percentages.
No,
exactly.
I'm always asking them myself. Can you just tell me a little bit more? To my knowledge, there isn't a great increase in the malt, so that's not what's influencing the character. And as far as I understand, again, the malted barley is playing predominantly its part in the early process of mashing, helping turn the carbs into sugars,
right. Normally,
as a catalyst.
But I mean, in a single malt, I mean, it predominantly is everything.
It's like there's no other single malt Scotch. It's all malted.
Yeah,
barley,
right. I mean,
so it's more to do with how it's malted. So is there any peat involved? And then, fermentation time is key in Scotch. And then fermentation time plays a key part in bourbon as well.
Right.
All these things, they're similar points along the point of, if you like, the process of making whiskey where flavors can jump in. So it's finding ways to amplify them.
Maighstir, does that mean master?
Master.
Okay, so that's the same. Okay, so that makes sense even more so.
So I jumped in late, so I didn't get to hear the whole deal, but this tastes like kind of a perfect marriage.
Well, that's a great start. But the biggest thing for me is, like, it's a lovely story, the master blenders and everything coming together. But what I think the lasting fact is that you've got a great tasting Kentucky straight, which highlights even more the flavors that are available. Because having sold Scotch for years, they would always say, we've got more flavor. No spirit has more flavor. And yet, there's lots of flavor you can find in Kentucky straight bourbon. And there's lots of different ways of demonstrating and showcasing it. And that's what we're doing by taking it to the world.
It's like a hidden thing, because if those flavors exist and they're making big blends, they just blend it out through to
Yeah.
be more what Kentucky bourbon is considered. You know, that rich caramel, but you always knew it was there.
Yeah.
There's the corn is stronger in some, the wheat, you know, it
Sure.
just. But then how they blend it, and blending is everything, right?
Yeah, it is.
And that's what we're finding out. Okay, so anything else that you have in your repertoire that you normally tell people you want to tell us?
No, not especially. I mean, you know, like for me, it's a real honor and a joy to get to work with a really good quality Kentucky straight bourbon. So I'm really thankful for that. And I'd just like to reassure people that enjoy good Kentucky straight bourbon, like Kentucky Owl, that I'm having a great time traveling around the world and selling it to countries like, you know, Australia, New Zealand, Korea, Taiwan, China, India, Africa. All these countries are taking it. In fact, when I fly home tomorrow, I'm actually flying straight to Switzerland to sell it there and then on to Dubai to launch this. So it's really, really popular all around the world. And I think that's a great message.
So what did you think of the festival this
I
year
love the
compared to
festival.
when you were here before?
It's my third time. I hope to come back every year. I'll love it.
All right. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And till we
Till
meet
next
again.
time.
Yes. All right.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys fans, this is Alan Bishop, Indiana's alchemist of the Black Forest. So I'm tuning in here today to tell you all about the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel on YouTube. If you're at all interested in the art of distilling, whether it be home distilling or professional distilling, and the intense geekery that goes into that process, then check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. I promise you're going to learn something you didn't know before about the arts.